Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Wednesday Night Live, episode 10. Got a few bits in store tonight. I am in limp mode, to be fair, but been on my mind all day because I've been studying up for quite a while. So I think we're going to have a bit of a chat about those dreaded flukes, and I'm going to share some thoughts on them. So. How are you all doing? I hope you're all well. So I've had an I felt shocking all day, to be fair. I think sheer fatigue, then an headache kicked in, and oh my God, but there we go. Bit squinty eye, but we shall soldier on, folks. We really shall. Yeah, so Aaron was supposed to be on holiday, to be fair, and then he realised he couldn't find his passport and he's not managed to get a new one in time. So he's not abroad, but he's still taking his holiday. So I've not had a chance to get any stuff done this week. However, I do think the channel's been on quite good form recently. In it out the Koi question answered series, we've got a few episodes of that are going to be dropping this week. Of course, we've done the first, getting back to them, the Koi, the grow out videos following the batches of fish along. We're going to be hitting. There's a few more of them landing next week, and I'm finally going to get the golden corn done, which I can't wait for. They are looking superb. Then, of course, that's going to mean that there's going to be some of those finally available because I've had no end of people asking. So we're working our way around stuff, as well as just, if you saw it behind the scenes at the minute, it's it's a laugh, just the sheer amount of volume of stuff trying to get out. It's nuts. Fish houses are settling down a bit, however. A couple of batches, again, kept me on my toes this week, but I don't even want to say it, but touch wood, we're... I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to leave that one there. Challenging times, and just pumps deciding that they're going to pack up and you name it. However, it looks like we're going to start doing a few interviews for the new fish house position. So that set of hands can't come soon enough. Really hoping that someone fits the bill, and we can get them integrated pretty soon. Would be nice. Other than that, I don't think I've got too much more. I am not super prepared, as has been the vibe. But nonetheless, I think it was a nice episode last week, just firing through some questions. Having listened to all the feedback from what I asked last week as well, I am going to get the show back to what we originally planned. So I think studio-wise, I do find doing it at home more comfortable, given that how busy things are. It just saves a bit more time traveling between offices and all the rest of it. So I actually see about getting some of the gear here, I think, to spec that up, and then getting the Koi focus, and then expanding the show out as we were ending on the couple of auction bits as well. But I think that will come more in time, bit by bit. Hopefully, if we get another set of hands integrated, that is what's going to free us up the capacity to get them little things working more consistently. So let's see. For now, we'll carry on in this limp mode, and I don't think there's any harm in just rattling through some questions. But it would be nice to get it back to that comprehensive show that we planned, and we will in time. Other than that, my thoughts have shifted. Oh yeah, Mickey's just mentioned there, actually. We've done the on the Koi Online website, a Koi Care section, Koi Carp Care, where I've been publishing 2 articles published so far. Going to be a lot more to come on that one. So just a bit of text-based information for people to refer to as and when we can get little bits done. Not that I needed any more on my plate, but hey, why not? I think it's nice to have as a reference point there. So yeah, if you've not seen that already, feel free to check it out. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, but my thoughts have shifted very much towards flukes, given the time of year and then the amount of people. And I've been having quite a few conversations with some people, names you won't necessarily have heard of, and really digging into research. Not stuff I do a lot, but with a bit of AI power stuck in there as well, being able to summarize lengthy papers and extract key information and bits. I'm really having a look into it, because I think we're at a point with this, and I've had some interesting stuff come up actually, and I think a lot of this now is really going to come round. I'm going to introduce this concept now, and then we will likely look to expand upon it at some point. But I think let's get it out there. Let's start having the conversation and see what rolls from it. So let's probably start with a headline. You know by now my style of koi keeping is I'm very much guided by what I see, and I interfere as little as possible and keep things as simple as possible. The whole kind of bit in this is that, and a question that gets asked a lot, if I find 1 or 2 flukes, should I medicate for it? I think the answer, to be honest, is coming round. And this in all fairness became a thing. I first started nitrite when I first started talking about it. I believe there was a presumption or a thought or a teaching that nitrite should be completely zero. Now, yes, if we can get completely zero, fantastic. Reality is, will you get completely zero unless you've got a few fish in a big pond and you're not feeding? Yeah, probably not. I don't see it. But you know, what can they tolerate over a sustained period of time? And this is what's never really been spoke about, and we kind of see, and it is evidence that around up to about 0.3 is sustainable. Above that, it can be manageable with the addition of salt and stuff like that. But you don't want it for prolonged periods. So that for one is something that all of a sudden, if the expectation is zero, you're in trouble, because it's so hard to achieve and actually enjoy the hobby at the same time. So flukes, seemingly parts. I've always believed this, absolutely, because I can see it. Fish can carry, so I can have a pond that I'm looking at. So let's go with the 2 examples I'm going to use are my sales ponds outside versus the raising ponds inside. One is kept proactively, the other is kept reactively, 100%. The growing ponds have very little interference. They're obviously warm, so they're in an environment where, albeit it's intense, in my case, they're warm, so their immune system is absolutely firing. It really, really is. They've got that going for them. They're being fed. They're very, very well nourished, which is going to get their immune system and everything firing incredibly well at the same time. Further on from that, there's very little interference in them ponds. There's very little fish movements. Generally, when they're settled, and it's only between selections that they'll be kind of interfered with. I'm very aware of the source water that goes in. As little as possible of it goes in as well, and I let the ecosystem do its job. Now, unless something, we proactively really manage the KH, because I have to. It's very hard to maintain it, and you need to maintain it because you see a massive performance drop off in that if we get it too low. But I reactively keeping that, so I will not just go scraping in those ponds unless I feel there's an absolute need to. Just don't need it. There's enough going on. But why? I'm assessing the fish. I'm assessing all the behavior. I'm assessing that, yeah, there will be the odd flash every now and again. It's just when it becomes excessive. And if it does become excessive, here's a point that we'll dig into at some point, not necessarily tonight. Is it flashing because if you pull it out, you do a scrape, all of a sudden you find 1 or 2 flukes? Is it flashing because of the 1 or 2 flukes, or is it actually flashing because of something else that you might not be aware of in your system? plenty to all this. It's just that at that moment you will see a couple of flukes, and obviously it's just natural to point the fingers. But I don't. But I could pretty much guarantee if I go scraping around in them ponds enough, pull enough fish out, maybe even the first one, but if I pull enough fish out, I will likely find 1 or 2 flukes. It's a given. Not always. That can prove me wrong, but I guarantee if I looked hard enough, kept going, at some point, one fish would probably show 1 or 2. But what's happening in this case is the fish are well nourished, the environment is good, there's very little stress factors in the environment, and their immune system's punching. In those circumstances, when you're providing those kind of conditions, it is pretty well documented that their immune system is built to handle 1 or 2 flukes in existence in that system. 100%. And we can see it. So I don't, unless those 1 or 2 flukes. Now, what would happen if there was some major stress events, a massive deterioration in water quality, maybe some new fish introduced, a massive catching session, that stress factor would be enough that would start to cause a dip in their immune performance, or just enough stress that would allow them flukes to maybe start multiplying at a level where it actually becomes an infestation that needs medicating. Also, quite well documented that obviously these things are just living everywhere. You could be scraping parts of the fish and they have a habit of managing to hide under a scale, hide in a gill, be on one part of the body, not. When you're actually scraping, the general basis of it is, from everything I've done, complete eradication, unless it was never there in the first place, seems unlikely. I think that's the one you need to start getting your head around. And if you look, if you were to take every fish up, scrape all elements of the fish, nobody does this, not that I know of anyway, you would end up finding maybe 1 or 2. That 1 or 2 is the potential for an infestation and outbreak, because they're in there. They generally need fish. Without fish, there's not much of a host. They can feed on biofilm, seemingly. I don't know. It didn't seem that can be sustained. The fish seems to be the big host. But obviously, there's a lot of biofilm in a pond, on the walls and the media, you name it. It's absolutely everywhere. So they can sustain them for a while, but generally you've got your fish as your host and your food source. So likelihood is there's always going to be 1 or 2. If you go looking around the whole thing enough, you're going to find them somewhere. It's not until, boom, something happens and they start to overwhelm the job a little bit, or you start looking. So if you are the type of koi keeper that is obsessing a little bit too much, really, really looking in, and necessarily 1 or 2 flukes on a fish, these ponds I've just spoke about, they could be on there and I would see absolutely 0 symptoms. Because let's face it, if you've got persistent flashing, fluke medications alone, and there's a lot of overuse of it, fluke medications alone cause irritation and flashing and stress. This is the funny thing about it all. Also, in what I've read into, it's pretty much kind of documented that praziquantel base and flubendazole treatments don't completely eradicate. They knock back. And then given, I've written it down here, getting into the treatment process is a whole different category to this altogether. And also studying I've done into the impact that the environment, and we knew about this anyway, but more in depth of the impact that it's potentially having on these medications. On top of them, what I've always stood by, and a lot of the medications aren't actually strong enough, and people don't actually accurately know their water volumes. So all this considered, these things are generally always in the environment somewhere. If you want to look hard enough, so sales ponds outside, coming to that, we are proactive in there because they are sales ponds. So we need to know what's going on. And obviously we don't want fish leaving with any flukes on whatsoever. So we have to be on those ponds constantly. And given that the fact there's so much netting, movement, you name it, there is so much stress in there all the time that it's likely 1 or 2. So hence this year we introduced like a pre-quarantine protocol for fish leaving out. So we the new system I put in place was that orders that want to ship need basically a week's notice. So this week our cutoff will be tomorrow evening for shipments the following week. And what we do is we pick everything, we isolate them all in one pond, and then basically go through a quarantine protocol in the system so I can monitor it, take all different samples, and boom, then they leave knowing that pond's got a full clean bill of health before they go out. But obviously, that's again still no guarantees. There's something hiding somewhere. I cannot scrape absolutely every fish. I don't know anybody who's done it to get that information. And we're not just talking. You can do a side. This is how fickle it is. You can do a scrape down the side of a fish. Obviously, that's somewhere where they can flash. They can physically rub stuff off. A lot of people don't necessarily always scrape the belly. That's my main area that I scrape. Because when you think about it, they can't flash and rub that area. So you could even on a fish, just by not getting the right place, potentially miss them. The point I'm laboring here a little bit too much is that they are in your environment. They're there unless you've got an absolutely clean start and every fish going in has been blitzed, almost sterilized, which is not going to happen. It's all about environment management. So if all of a sudden you have got a pond with bad heavy metals, that is not going to be great for flukes. You are going to find there that they're going to be, because there's a constant stress factor in the environment. It could be that your fish have started flashing. It's actually something from your water parameters, but what happened is it's more than likely going to blame what you can see on a microscope for something like that, which I think is the way that it tends to go. What I'm going to encourage, and I know this is hard for new koi keepers especially, because you need information, you need to understand what's going on. But even that from the outset is to really understand, to read the fish with your eyes. Does this pond at this moment in time actually need intervention? And then if there is a persistent issue going on, look at the broad picture, try and analyze everything to pinpoint it, rather than just constantly bombing fluke treatments at it. Now, obviously, unheated ponds this time of year, you are naturally in. If we just look at the weather of the past sort of 3 weeks, the temperature swings are a massive stress factor, given that the immune system's in no man's land as well. So it is likely, and this is what happens, you are going to keep them flukes are going to keep coming back. That just seemingly is a reality. Your medication, even if you get everything right, dosage absolutely spot on, the pond prepared, the whole thing administered in the correct way, the likelihood is with the temperature swings and bits and bobs, and then maybe a new fish going in, all stress factors. That's without being issues with your parameters, which on an unheated pond this time of year is likely to be swinging and fluctuating a bit more. You put the whole mix in, this is where your instability and your irritation and bits can come from. But the likelihood is it is going to be them flukes cropping up in one or two. I think the skill here is again going to be reading the fish and do they need intervention. It's a hard one. I get anxious about tackling these conversations in truth, but I think it's that understanding and the way, if anybody out there is ever wondering how I managed to look after so many ponds. I mean, we are a small team. Practically right now, because of how we're functioning, the whole fish management on the site is with me across everything. How do I manage all that? It's just through being this. It's not everything being proactive. It's some stuff being reactive, like, right, they look great. And all of a sudden, right, a couple of fish in there looking a bit off it, investigate. And this is, again, just another element to throw in the mix. This is a session of just spitting these ideas out. Feel free to fire any questions in about it, but we will at some point pick this up more in depth. Ponds where you might have a weak fish, a fish's immune system slightly repressed or not firing properly, that's going to be an absolute really susceptible to flukes. So that might be a fish that you could scrape all the time and you're going to find higher numbers of them. In that case, then you've got decisions to make. Just because they come, that fish like that can be more vulnerable. I see it all the time because when I scrape, I never just do one fish. I always batch sample and keep the slides separate. So if in a pond I'm looking and I see a fish that looks shit, bearing in mind we're talking, there's a pond I'm dealing with at the minute, there's 500 fish in there. There's a small amount of the population struggling, and it's come from sleeping disease. It's Goshkis, as it always is within the batch. And as I'm looking at them now, the goshkis I can find flukes on. You can see it on them, they're struggling, but that's because the fish is struggling. The fluke is a secondary problem to this, and it's because their immune system is not managing to deal with anything. The rest of the population, as I scrape them, absolutely fine. That leaves you with an issue there to deal with, because you don't just want to be constantly bombarding the whole pond for the sake of a small percentage of the population. But obviously, if left unchecked, yes, that can become and begin to spread. But this has been like this for quite a while now, and until those goshki get right and start putting their body weight back on, this will continue to be an issue with these fish. So Craig's saying seems to have been high numbers of visits this spring from what I've seen in groups compared to last year. Zoos and flukes have been a nightmare this season. Craig, high numbers of Costia as well. Yeah, you tend to get that. I always wonder if it ends up being like an environmental setup that seems to really trigger and hone in on that. It's weird how it works, but flukes, let's face it, they're all there. Keith with a good point that parasites are a part of koi keeping. Yes, I mean, there are the nasties. You don't see your general fish, your aggressive fish parasites, your costias, white spot, stuff like that. You find that, you jump on that straight away. That there is no leaving that doing anything like that. Flukes are a different beast altogether. And like I say, I'm convinced that any pond, if you go rooting enough, you'll maybe find one or two, unless it is the absolute Ritz, very sterile type conditions, which isn't reality. But the fish are built to deal with them while ever you've got their immune system firing well. So just coming back to it, that unheated temperature band at the minute where it's at is not conducive to this whatsoever. So I would encourage this mindset and this methodology even more, of really learn to read the fish. I just seem to think you get too much information at some point coming in, and it's not necessary. All this information comes in, you look at your pond and think, they look great. But you might have a bit of a trace of nitrite or this, that, and the other. What do you do? Go tinkering around for it all? Just observe what's going on in there. And obviously, if there's even one fish in a group, you've got to make an assessment of how you might deal with that based on how the rest of the general population is as well. Hope that bit so far has been of some use to you. I know it's not necessarily a shining light, but the treatments sort of coming onto it, because I think how I've mentioned is just recently when there's been the one or two flukes, I've been finding I've had some fantastic success with potassium permanganate. This I do truly believe is one of the single-handedly best, most diverse treatments you can get. It's cheap, it's cost effective. However, there are the drawbacks with it. You've got to get the dosage right to get the full effect of it. To get the dosage right is a bit of a gamble and a risk, and a bit of trial and error. And unfortunately, the error side of potassium is the trade-off, because if you get it wrong with the stuff, you can do a lot of damage very, very quickly. Hence why I'm reluctant to share the sort of dosage levels and stuff and treatment regimes that I generally work with. It's because I do it under my watchful eye, and I know how to get myself out of it should it go wrong. But the fluke treatments in general, so obviously working on that basis, again, that I think the expectation is complete eradication. Is it necessarily complete eradication from the system? No. I mean, you take today, for example, the export pond, the shipping pond that we've got. I've been in there, I've sampled 6 different fish that I know come from different ponds as well. And I could not find a single thing on the slides, on the way that I did it. Does that mean that pond's clear? No. Does that mean that if they were left like that for a couple of weeks, they've had a treatment? Generally, as I move them all in, I hit them with some potassium, because mixing all together like that, again, stress event. So we'll proactively do that with them. But it's the business side of it. It's things that kind of have to be done. Yeah, nothing. But if those fish all of a sudden left in there for, a few weeks and you start neglecting them, or you get them subject to the temperature swings, does it mean the environment's free of it? I mean, after that PP dose, kind of, who knows? But it's just a reality. It could start happening. Medications, however, big influences on all this, and I'm going to come back to it, is people technically not knowing their dosage, POM volume correctly, medications not being strong enough, and Louis, anything new in the pipeline other than morbid side of pond keeping? No, I think I get it. It's a bit morbid, mate, but this is a reality. It's something so many people have got to deal with. I think working on, there's actually a method. If you look at it, you can get a more accurate pond volume through using salinity. I can't remember. I've got details of it somewhere, but I'm not sure where I pull it out from. I've only used it once or twice, which is useful, because getting that right is key. But I think one of the big things is how heavily these treatments are impacted just through the general biological activity as a pond. And it sprung to mind because as I've been speaking to Fujio a lot recently, they've been dealing with my parent fish, getting her back on track, which she is seemingly now, by the way, getting back on track, which is good. That's been fucking stressful to say the least. I've lost me train of thought there. Trail of thought even. Yes, so particular treatment they've been using, not for flukes. They do a lot of stopping the filter. Now, there's sort of arguments for this. We know full well that the biological activity of a filter, the degassing effect of a shower, all these things can affect medications. UVs can affect medications, and you need to get the full impact of it. And there's an element of they're actually using a lot of them as like a bath for a while and then restarting the system and getting it firing. There's the kind of counter argument to this, in that could you potentially leave something in the filter? Now, as I've researched into this, there could be flukes living in the biofilm, in the filter. I don't know how likely it is. If I really went looking, I don't think I'd expect to find it. We could do it. I should do that as a bit of an experiment, really. But it is a big method that they indeed use. But just coming back to it, the potassium. So there's been on one prominent manufacturer's list a dosage using chloramine T. Now, I am not a chloramine T from Cobwebs at a greenhouse. Not a big chloramine T fan. I think it's too aggressive in the whole system. So that's that is one reason I stay away from it, because I think you potentially opens yourself up to more trouble afterwards. Potassium, on the other hand, bearing in mind that it can actually have a really positive impact on K1 based filters afterwards, can knock them back slightly to begin with, but then actually help them rebound stronger in what it does to the biofilm. Andy, who's after more Tosai? Go Aku. Yeah, so PP, remember PP is a very powerful oxidizer, so it can really do, and it can, in its heyday, in its form, it can tackle flukes, Costia, Chilodenella, and Trichodina. Fantastic for all of them. So it is, and I know a lot of people do it, but it is a worthwhile one to use before a fluke treatment, just because of what it can do in cleaning the water more than anything. It's not got to be a super aggressive treatment. It can just be a standard treatment of it. But it does also give you, if you've not used it before, it gives you a good gauge, because how quickly it'll go from purple to brown is a fantastic indicator of how heavily loaded your water is with organics. Other stuff you should be doing beforehand, even before a PP, clean the filters, get as much waste out of the system at that point as you can, and top up with a bit of a fresh, which will further dilute them organics anyway. So all this stuff is going to be helping you. But the tricky thing with the fluke treatments once they've been deployed is you don't truly know, because of how your system might break it down biologically. How long you could almost do like a color indicator on it, like potassium is, purple to brown. It's the best one for it. You don't actually know how long it's been in your water to potentially do something, as when is the next stage, if you need to treat again, the right one to do it, because it could be as little as 24 hours realistically. I think this is where the day 1, day 2, day 3 with the 50% on the day 2 and 3 sort of came from. It's keeping a more consistent level of dosage in there without potentially overdoing it, because it will have lost some of its clout for sure after that first 24-hour period. So yeah, Perrin here is just saying, when I refilled pond last year, I put a water meter on the pond. When refilling, it was 400 gallons higher than what I've been medicating for 6,400 gallons rather than 6,000 gallons, which I thought the pond was. That's a chunk of water, that is. And I do know that'll be probably happening to a lot of people out there. Certainly the minute you've got anything other than a kind of rectangle square based pond, even an uneven pond floor, you'd be amazed what difference that would make, not accounting for filters. So much in there with all that stuff. So yeah, that's my thoughts on where that's at, but definitely worth looking at a treatment with PP beforehand. Certainly not chloramine tea. I'd stay away from that big time. Martin here saying, how can the manufacturer give such different guidance for using PP for treating flukes from once per 7 days to 3? I don't know as they do give that guidance, Martin, for PP. To 3 daily full doses repeated on the 7th day. I've never actually read, I can't remember last time I read a pack of PP, to be fair. But yeah, it's a treatment where you've got to get to know the treatment to really get to use it properly and understand why. Oh, that's on cloverleaf PP apparently. That's fucking crackers. Absolutely crackers. Can do the job. I was first introduced to a treatment here actually from Dr. Johnson out in the States, and it was basically a consecutive dosing of PP day after day, which you have to watch, because let's not forget, you might not know, when potassium is reacted, it forms manganese dioxide, so it will elevate manganese levels in your water quite substantially, and manganese is a toxic metal. So necessarily short-term exposure, if you're using PP heavy, it is always worth looking at a water change afterwards to dilute that down and sort of get it out of the system. Craig here, had to get into my pond yesterday up to her shoulders depth, 14 degrees. Yeah, that'll have been freezing, mate. And it goes just to show, where them temps are still at the minute. I mean, we're cracking on into May now, and at 14 degrees, it's fucking bonkers. Really is. So yeah, I think that's worthwhile. And then the big part to this as well is just again coming back to stability, full tie-in here. Now, I'm not saying the minute you get heat all your problems go away, but trust me, you will reduce them. The more stability you can add to your system, the closer you can get them to their peak immune efficiency, the easier your life will be, and just minimizing stress events. Looking at your source water, just having that in-depth analysis done to understand what's going on, to know it's not potentially something that could be causing repetitive flashing or something like that. And just keep the information that's coming inbound to a minimum. If you're a more experienced koi keeper and you're confident that by looking at your fish what's going on, or you need intervention, I think you're generally going to be in a sweeter spot. But this is one of my big gripes with electronic test kits, because you get these 0.0 fucking bonkers readers and you just don't want to know. All I want to see is do that and go, there's a tiny bit of pink in there, must be a bit of nitrite, or no, there's no ammonia because that's yellow. Sound, that'll do me nicely. Yeah, there we go. That's half an hour of rambling about that. I think I'm going to probably do, I'd like to do, well, don't know when, but get this sort of documented down a bit more, and hopefully try and lead to a bit more of a protocol that might help you guys a bit more. But the biggest bit I can add to that right now is I think there's a bit of acceptance here that, these things are there. Do I need to intervene? Possibly not. Judge it by your fish. But then the more stability you can add to your pond, the better life's going to be. And I just seeing more and more continual feedback of people getting heat pumps for the first time, and it just literally changing the hobby completely for people. And I think, with what koi cost, and just get this mindset as well. Take the initial investment out. Ponds where this is repetitive and going on and on and on and on and on. Fluke, these medications aren't cheap. They're fucking crazy, really, especially if you've got a decent volume of water. So you start looking at what you might spend over a period of years on fluke treatments, as well as the stress and the hassle, and then against what that might cost, the initial investment of a heat pump, but then the ongoing running costs as people are reporting versus the cost of all the treatments. Rich is saying there, if I knew years ago adding a heat would help so much and reduce the need for medicating, I would have bought years ago. Yeah, actually, Rich has been prime in the sort of feedback he's given me since he introduced it and what it's done for his hobby as well. Here we go, Craig. Look, £200 already on treatments this spring, only 2,200 gallon. All of that stuff is going to add up massively, massively. So yeah, worth looking at that as well. I know it can be easy to say, "Oh no, that's in running costs," but you've got running costs, in keeping them medications away. Just all the other benefits that come from it. This time of year, being able to enjoy your hobby more. Just imagine having a stable 18 degrees rather than 18 one day, 14 the next, and all the shit that comes with it. On them nice days, you can actually get out and enjoy that pond more and just have the control. That's the big bit in all this. Lee asking, after a PP treatment, would you do a secondary fluke treatment to kill the eggs? Let's not forget flukes. I forget the proper scientific word for it. Skin flukes give birth to a live young. There's no eggs there with that. It's gill flukes with the eggs. Gill flukes I don't hear about as much. So yeah, potentially a second. The PP treatment, if you're going to do that to try and eradicate them, you're going to be punchy with your doses. But I would definitely say you'd want to follow on with a fluke treatment if it's gill flukes you're dealing with. In all honesty, right now, I've not had any gill flukes to attempt to tackle them just with PP. I'm not sure it would be doable. Who knows? For now, my gut instinct would be to fire kind of straight in with the standard fluke treatment for that one. But that's only because I've not had it to kind of prove any theory on it, mate, at the moment. Ron, definitely changed my outlook. If they're good, they are. Yeah, absolutely. Susan reckons she's up to about $300 so far in treatment costs. Yeah, wow. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. Susan, I use a heater and still having to treat. If I remember right, Susan, you've been going through the ringer a bit with bacterial problems and various other bits, because let's not forget as well, flukes and other parasites can actually be secondary to other problems as well. So if you have got, say, massively elevated levels of bacteria or an active bacterial infection, what that does to the fish and, the amount of immune power fighting that off makes them susceptible to other stuff as well. Yeah, that's my bit on that for now. I'm going to have a scroll and see if you've got any questions in there, guys. But it's just one of them ongoing battles for sure. And I don't think new meds, anything coming out, the preparation side of it is huge. And yeah, that's the area I'm going to try and look into next, is what could potentially be harboring in them filters, because that's maybe not as big a problem as you think, but you'd be amazed what a shower can potentially do, and a biological filter just in breaking down these medications, just to the point where they're not having the impact and the clout on the fish that they need to. Right, let's have a look. I've not done my usual see who was here sessions now. We're going to skip that because I've gone on for ages and ages there. But good evening to you all anyway. Marge asking how's the head. It's actually the tablets must have kicked in, and that conversation's got me going a bit. Look, crazy stuff. Craig, evening all. Massive thanks again to you and the team. Love my chags. P.S. You're good at you're good at tying bands. Took me ages. Yeah, I packed yours the other day, Craig. Matty was off, so we're just 2 boxes just after bank holiday that went out. That he'd, I mean, he must have been worried about me getting it done because he'd left every bit of prep there. But yes, mate, that's ninja skills. That one with the bands, mate. Absolutely. Kurashigoi as well. So you've all seen that video, guys, while I'm browsing. They've going to be a good fun this year. And thank you to everyone who bought them over the weekend as well. That was, yeah, they didn't hang around very long, but a good old Marido Karashi. It's not something as Tosai I've seen kicking around for a while. Luckily, our team member out in Japan's got quite pally with the Marido family, so it allowed us to get some nice access to stuff, yeah, that wasn't out there on general sale. That was pretty cool. KH, oh yes, that's it. So obviously, I'm hammering TikTok a bit at the moment. I've seen there's been I've dropped one on KH today. No, Richard, I didn't get to put in anything in the top tier of my towers. It's still on the job list, mate. I know, shocking, isn't it? Yes, bear with me. While I'm waiting, guys, look, while I'm finding this question as well, just hit that like button. Do us a little favor, and if you're watching and you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that one as well. It don't cost you out. We're on the march to 10k subscribers at the moment, which is pretty damn cool. Oh, here we go. Ron, when increasing food, what sort of increase do you believe is a sensible percentage? That's a tricky one, Ron, because I just go off the feeder settings, believe it or not, because I'm doing, again, most of this all visually. Uh, I have learned, I had a habit, and I tend to be when I'm rushing, trying to push things through too quickly, upping it too fast. So with the JBL feeders, for instance, if I'm doing an increase, say on the every 2 hour cycle that I've got, which I think is about 9 feeds a day, that gives them on what I'm at. What I do is I will only ever increase it 1 bar, but I don't do it all at the same time. So what I would do is I go on there, and the first feed, for example, I'll leave as it is. I'll increase the next one, leave one, increase, and go along like that. Give that a week, and then look to bring the others back in line. There is, however, the Tucano grow out event that we're doing. They've been flying that much through observations this week. The feed level was just nowhere near high enough for the feeding window I give. And I've been giving them quite a lot of small increases, just not fast enough. So I've gone for it a bit with that one. However, gone for it. The pond's 25 and seems to be firing incredibly well. So they actually today, they've had quite a big bump up because as they're growing, I'm not quite getting the volume level that I want to see at the minute. And that's just because that feeding level isn't high enough. Hence, you'll get the length mainly because of the temperature and the fact they are being fed. It's getting that volume. Yes, parent fish. I mean, stressful. It's just I've been having to keep this schedule so fluid, which has been stressful in its own, but really hard not being in control of that situation as well. In fairness to Fujo, every morning I get an update on her, get some videos, and is consulted with me every step of the way, and we made a plan together on what we've been doing. As to how it got there, I don't necessarily know because I've not managed to see it. But the last bit was kind of what I pointed out was like, look, I think we need to get her back on some food because they'd actually noticed she'd absolutely stripped every bit of algae off the pond bare. And if you've seen the video, she's a super muscular fish, and that muscle needs feeding. And just in recent days, as they've slowly been introducing a bit more food, her activity levels are massively, massively picked up. So I'm quite relaxed as it stands. Where the whole spawning journey's at, who knows? Because there's only, there's certain windows that need to be hit, and we absolutely need to make sure she's strong enough, because, yeah, could quite easily push her over the edge. And I mean, what that fish means to me in general, and the value and everything it sits at, don't want to take any unnecessary risks. And treatment costs, that is a crazy addition to your hobby there with that one, I must say. Andy, do you think that NND are getting up there with the big dealer with their Kohaku, them Tosai Kohaku that was on the video? Yeah, the forgotten video. So would I say that? I think probably bone structure, growth, quality wise, all the rest of it. I'd say probably where it just lacks a little bit is the volume of fish they have with the high level of patterns. When I say that's not easy to achieve, by the way, actually getting the skin and the size and the growth, all that's actually easier than getting the pattern side, because of kind of what you have to do in the breeding process to really produce a high number of really technical patterns. But yeah, from a quality perspective, man, honestly, this batch that batch we're talking about, where they're at now, I can remember the day up to 42 centimeters or something. I mean, we're just coming into the period now where they're going to be hitting, well, a bit 11 and a half months old at minute. It's absolutely savage, and the bodies on them. When I saw them this year compared to last, and they did use a different female parent, body level seems like it's gone up a notch big time. Drabber's Koi, random question. Which Tosai from which breeder do you like growing on, and why? I can't nail that down to one, mate. I mean, I love doing them all. This is why you see such change in everything. Generally, the stock that we have is dictated by what I want to prat about with in any given year. It's why, to be honest with you, part of the reason of the sort of transition, the wholesale thing wasn't sitting that well with me, is because there's generally a certain stock list that's needed all the time. And I'm generally looking at stuff and going, yeah, you know what? I fancy having a go at them this year. Like Marido Karashigoi, that's exactly how that come about. Like with the stuff that Saito does, like with Golden Corn, the list really does go on. And just because, again, I enjoy growing Karashigoi, yes. Would I do Marido 2 years on the bounce? No, because I like to mix it up, get into something. Because what that also does for me as well, it just keeps the learning in. The bigger diversity of different breeders, stock and different variety from breeders, I can get to see, grow and raise with my own eyes. It's all feedback in and understanding of how it works for me to be able to pass that information on in the end. I mean, this year, if we narrow it down to this year, super looking forward to raising the Golden Corn. Yeah, can't wait for that. The Karashigoi, I just, so when I was going through them and seeing what was going on for him already, I'm just going, I wonder how big I can get a Nisai, one of these within 12 months, or not even one. How big I can get a collection of Nisai of them. So yeah, NND shower this year. I'm going to I am already loving that. It just goes on. I love raising koi in general. It's an absolute obsession. And then that curiosity of wanting to get into all the different bloodline, not even necessarily, like I say, a particular variety, a particular bloodline of a variety, because there's so many of them, to get to know the variations and how they do and what you can do with it. It's that's where I draw so much enjoyment from. Mickey, updates on the potential trip to Japan. So it's looking like towards the end of this month now for what we're doing. So we've got the NND Mud Pond release to get sorted. That's in a position now where that can happen. I just need to give enough time for my fish to be in a spot to make a decision of where we're going to head with that. So fingers crossed. Worst case, if it doesn't go ahead, yes, it will be sad, but the plan is to get there. To obviously, I want to get back to some of that work experience around the whole breeding culling process to start really getting my eye into that. There's no hanging about now. Luke, what sort of size are you going to push the Karashi to? Not fancy getting to one, mate. Who knows, mate? Who knows? Let's see where it ends, pal. They've got the scope, so yeah. And it could proper whet my appetite again for trying to get Deutz Karashi en masse. He had a few, there's quite a few in there, but not enough. My God, would I love just a solid batch of those? That'd be epic. Kev there. Ricky, one choice. Gordon Ramsay meal or ramen in Japan. Ramen in Japan every day of the week. When I say I'm passionate about that stuff, it's an understatement. I think it's been said a few times, ramen is life, but oh my God. Just one of them things. It's just anything they get into in Japan, you can go so in depth into it if you want. Incredibly sad, but there we go. So I think there's because there's chat going on in here at the same time. It can be quite hard to pick it up. Oh, there's one. High copper levels in water. Is this bad? Absolutely, that's bad. Yeah, that is not what you want. Copper's one of the nasty metals as well. So definitely want that resolved. What's your experience of Sekiguchi Pearl Ginrin, Ricky? So I had some of the Pearl Ginrin Benigois. They were absolute fucking nightmare with shimmies, to tell you the truth. That can be the case with a fish with rich Benny. So I can't really put that down to it. As Pearl Ginrin goes, he is number one. Absolutely, hands down. No one's done it to the level that he has. There's no way you're going to ever see them of any mass size because I just don't think it can be maintained within the scale properly. It's tough enough with normal Ginrin, never mind the pearl stuff. But that's about as far as it runs, to be honest with you. After that particular batch, it did kind of put me off a little bit. You can't really get them in any sort of mass numbers. I do get bits of pearl Ginrin. Coders is coming really strong. I've been there with Coders when he first started it. And this year, I think the evolution has really come good, as it will. It takes time. And Kase really is the only other one out there who is hitting that as well. And that's more along the sort of Sorogoi, Chiba sort of line. Coda's managed to branch out. He's got it into Kohaku as well, which is quite good to see. Have I seen Fluke X from Vetark? I've seen an email about it. I've not really looked into it too much yet, but I will. Well, there we go. I've hit the bottom. I don't know, guys, if I've missed too much there. Andy, when can I come down and do a day work for you? One day is not enough, mate. I need about 3 weeks, someone at a minute. Jesus Christ. It'd be wrong to put someone into that chaos as well as it stands. What's your, I think that says there, what's your opinion about your Genji Koi farm? Yeah, absolutely great. Genji's a great place. From a business standpoint, I kind of stopped going there, to tell you the truth, because of the way they sort of sell stock and you can access stock. For me, just to give you again how it works, I might fancy, for example, doing their Kikisui one year. It's very hard just to get batches of their Kikisui. And for a little while, they become very heavily entangled with one or two particular agents. And I felt like it was hard, or one agent really, hard to get your foot in the door to get access to what you want. And with so much choice out there, just my general analysis was I'm better off investing that time somewhere else where putting that effort in can pay dividends more. That was probably as a breeder as they go. Yeah, I mean, everything that they do it incredibly well, and they make quite a lot of different varieties. Their Ginrin stuff's amazing, and there's just such a clean, well-run operation, and they're great guys. But yeah, generally that's their Karashi line's quite something to behold as well. Really is. that would interest me if I could get hold of some of them. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that one. It is over the years. I sort of when I first my early years, I just tried to spread myself out absolutely everywhere. It kind of like you felt like I needed to, but over the year I've really honed it in and refined it to places where you can get your consistent supply of stock, which is important, and secondly, again, just pinpointing the bloodlines. And to be honest, at some places, well, I'll come to realize there's no point these relationships you think you build up. A lot of it's just driven by someone comes in the next year who would buy you more than you are, and you kind of get kicked down line a little bit. So I kind of take it on. I've obviously got my places there. It's very, very apparent, but I go by what I see, what I want to focus on. Don't stay too bogged down. It's not like I absolutely need to have from this place, this place, this place every year. Yeah, like to vary it and see where they go. Just as Craig's mentioned there, look, any news on Issa Kohaku, it just didn't happen this year. To be honest, I've not been paying that much attention at Issa strategically. I've been looking at other stuff. So yeah, it's just the way it all goes. You can't do it all every year either. It's quite challenging, and you can't consistently build on, because breeders have a habit of just going, oh fuck it, especially the ones that aren't super commercially minded. Like, I'm not bothered about doing these this year. I'm going to try this instead. So you can make forward plans as well for something that just completely doesn't come off because during one breeding season they've decided to go in a completely different direction. Dave asking me that Oya okay for Go Sankey. Yeah, I mean the Oya Sankey is it's got its quirks. More in the Sumit because it was originally a Jimbei based bloodline back in the day. And they seem to be doing a good job with the Kohaku and Showa of more recent years. But the general fame at Oya was for the Sankey because of that Jimbei blood, which tends to produce a very bold, heavy Sumi. And Sagi, of course, right up there for that stuff. But yeah, I don't know where that breeder rank come from then, but it's an interesting one. It's always grinding away, and it's like, oh, let's try this year or try this, but honestly, you can't rely on anything too much year to year. And of course, in amongst all that, spawnings just might not happen. So it's really, really an interesting one. So, folks, I think we'll call it a night at that one. Don't think if I have missed anything, I do apologize. What's Jeff saying there? No news on a super fluke treatment, Jeff. It's more about a mindset and understanding of the whole thing, buddy, to be honest with you. An ethos, like tying more into my keep it simple ethos of stuff. So we'll dig a bit more as I keep digging into it, and like I say, playing around. Get there, but I hope them little bits today can help. And I see Richard trying to introduce some football banter, so I think that's a good time to end the show, ladies and gents. Craig, sorry there. Any news on clothing being released? Yeah, it's something there, mate. It gets a little bit done, and we get to it. But right now, our top priority is getting everybody's fish out to them. And on that note, if you have got fish with me, guys, I know the guys at the office are working tirelessly, slowly. It's just such a big list working through, and obviously you can't get hold of everybody instantly. So week by week, stuff's leaving. It's great, but if you are out there and you've got fish, please get in touch, and we will get them out to you ASAP. Obviously, everything's looking great, so I'd like them to maintain that way. Let's get them gone. Let's get me my pond space back. On that note, thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Look out for the Koi question answered videos. They're going to be dropping. I think we've got 3 lined up already, which is pretty cool. And then next week, you're going to see more of the grow out videos as we get that done, and Aaron's back at work. So, yeah, appreciate everybody's time tuning in this evening. And I'll see you all next week. Fingers crossed.